For years, I thought I was bad at making friends. Then I realized that making friends isn't actually a skill. It turns out it's 5 skills, and being bad at any of them will ruin your social life. After hitting rock bottom and going over 4 years without making a new friend, I rebounded, moved to a new city, and made over 100 friends in 6 months. How? I built what I call the friendship pipeline. By creating a repeatable, systematic approach to friendship, I went from deeply lonely to socially abundant. And today, I'm sharing every skill you need to make the system work for you too. I am an extremely social person, but I spent the majority of my 20s feeling incredibly lonely. I'm extroverted, love talking to people, and love going to social events, but despite that, I failed to meet new people, failed to make friends, and just felt stuck. When I first graduated college, I moved to Baltimore and really tried to put myself out there. I did social sports, but none of those friendships lasted beyond the end of the season, so I mostly ended up only meeting coworkers. After I got a girlfriend, our relationship actually filled a lot of my social needs, so I didn't feel the same urgency to go out and actively try to make friends. But once I stopped trying to make friends, I totally forgot how, and COVID was a death blow. As the whole world was disrupted and my social life was shrinking all around me, I had no idea how to recover from that. After my relationship ended and I lost the majority of my remaining friends, I knew I needed to reboot my life, so I decided to move across the country and landed in Austin. When I arrived, I only knew 2 people, so I had to totally restart my social life from scratch. I knew I had to stop blaming everything and everyone around me and take accountability. I couldn't use Baltimore as an excuse anymore. I decided to use my engineering brain to break down the process of friendship so I could get better, piece by piece. Here's how I did it. As I analyzed my social life, the first thing I realized is that I was waiting for it to happen to me and wasn't doing anything to create it. I always wanted to be invited places, but I was never inviting anyone to anything. I thought I only needed 1 or 2 good friends, and I wasn't actually putting myself out there to meet lots of people. Ultimately, I was focused on what I could get rather than what I could give. But that all changed when I heard this quote from Kevin Kelly. Perhaps the most counterintuitive truth of the universe is that the more you give to others, the more you'll get. Understanding this is the beginning of wisdom. When I first heard this, it blew my mind and put so much in perspective. I was taking, but I wasn't doing anything to give. So the first step of the pipeline in becoming a good friend is maximizing what I call friendship karma. It's putting good energy out in the universe so that it gets reflected back to you. To put this into practice, instead of waiting for my Austin social life to happen to me, I decided to host a housewarming party. Even though I didn't really know anybody. I really had to reach the edge of my comfort zone to talk to so many new people and invite them. How did it turn out? Well, my first housewarming party had 14 people. And I had so much fun that I decided to keep hosting and try to host a new party every month. And after 3 months, I was consistently hosting 15 to 30 people at my house. And because I was initiating and inviting people to cool things, they started thinking of me when they were planning their own events or when they needed a +1. One of my favorite moments was during my Labor Day party. Several people told me that they really appreciated having somewhere to go on the holiday because otherwise they would have just spent it alone and being sad. So it was really amazing to me that I was able to create a space for other people to feel connected and be a part of a celebration. If you want to make friends, you need to find people to be friends with, and you're gonna need to leave the house. You can try being friends with your plumber, but if that's your only friend, it's gonna get expensive real quickly. You need to surround yourself with potential friends. This can be really hard because a lot of times people don't put themselves in friend-making environments. And it was something that was really overwhelming for me at first. Who are the best people to meet? Where do you even go to find these people? The truth is, there's easy places to meet people and there are hard places to meet people. Weekly social groups like a pickleball league, a board game night, or a writing club are much better places to meet people than at the grocery store, for example. So I set a goal for myself to attend at least 1 social event per week. I started saying yes to invitations even when it made me uncomfortable. I started saying yes to every invitation I got, even if I was tired and wanted a night in. If you need help finding fun events to meet people, I have a few quick tips. If you have an interest like chess or running clubs, search that interest plus your city name on Google and on Instagram. This will help you find specific groups in your city. But you also want to look for local influencers who can tell you what's going on before you need to even search for it. TikTok and Instagram are the best places for this right now. I actually think it's best to start by following local food influencers because there's so many of them, and even if you're not a foodie, you start training your algorithm to start showing you local people. Another Another super important tip is to search for local newsletters. I guarantee that there's an event roundup newsletter for your city. It might be a little hard to find, but Googling around and searching for Reddit, you can probably find it. These roundup newsletters might be published by a traditional newspaper or magazine publication or by an online writer. After finding all the right follows on my Instagram, I have been able to go to so many cool events, and I always see new things happening in my city. And the first social event was a walking group I actually discovered on Twitter. And by going to that and paying attention to all the other things that were happening in town, I met 30 plus people in my first month. And by experimenting with different activities, I found out which ones actually work best for me and my personality. And because I go out so often, I'm always surrounded by new strangers who could become friends, and I routinely meet people on multiple days per week. What's really crazy for me is that I've just met so many people over the last year that when I go to a brand new event I've never been to before, it's actually kind of rare for me to not know anyone there. Or even if I'm just walking by the river, I always see someone I know. This would have never happened to me in Baltimore, and it's just absolutely crazy. Now that we've surrounded ourselves with strangers, it's time for us to say hi to them. And this is where anxiety kicks in for most people. I know it did for me. We're just so scarred by so many awkward first conversations, or even the dreaded, we should grab coffee sometime. But I decided that I was done with conversations that were going nowhere, and I was not gonna let my own fear of rejection hold me back any longer. So I developed a whole system for approaching strangers and crafted a closing technique that works 100% of the time. I made a whole video about this that you can check out here. Basically, I realized that instead of asking people to get coffee with me, I could invite them to come to one of my house parties. And people just love being invited places, so this allowed me to continuously turn strangers into acquaintances. And I learned that people want to be approached. They're just as nervous as I was. And as I practiced, it got easier and my skill improved. One of my favorite experiences that you will surely experience one day is if you invite people consistently, occasionally you'll find someone who just gets so excited by the idea of being invited to your event. Everyone wants to be invited places, and so few people do it. So if you can muster the courage, you will stand out so strongly and people will be so appreciative and excited. Once you've created a connection with a stranger and met up once or twice, you need to transition to actually becoming a part of each other's lives. Most potential friendships die here because people meet once and then never again. Quite simply, you need to keep up with all the people in your life. And if you have a lot, calendar management can become quite hard. But the truth is, it takes a lot of time to form a real friendship with someone. The biggest shortcut here is creating and attending regular activities that include other people. So keep attending that walking group or board game night every week. By having a regular touch point, you'll see the same people over and over and actually start to develop your relationship. And the nice thing about using an event with multiple people is you can maintain multiple relationships at the same time. Another great thing you can do is use habit stacking to maintain relationships in your everyday life. Basically, whenever you have to go do something, see if someone wants to come with you. When you go out to dinner or see a movie, you don't have to go alone. And because you will have to choose, you should prioritize relationships based on your connection quality. But just because you haven't seen someone recently doesn't mean that you should give up on them. Go through your old texts and see who you haven't messaged in a while. Try reaching out. Or when you think of someone, text them and tell them. You want to create as many spontaneous points of connection between you as you can. After committing to building consistent relationships, I developed a thriving rotation of regular friends. And now I never have an empty weekend unless I want one. My calendar is filled with recurring social activities to the point where most people think I'm crazy. Right now I have about 6 or 7 recurring events that I go to every week or 2. But don't worry, I'm an outlier and I'm also human. I've discovered my social battery maxes out after about 14 consecutive days of social events, and then I really need a break. Having people to do things with isn't enough because loneliness can still exist, even in a crowd. True friendship requires vulnerability, but most people and most relationships get stuck at surface level connections. When I wanted to form deeper connections, the first thing that came to my mind was learning to be a better listener. But that isn't all that you have to do. The most important step is to be vulnerable yourself and to create spaces where your partner can also be vulnerable. And the easiest way to do this is actually to ask for help. Asking for help can be one of the hardest things you ever do, so it's really important to try asking for help when it's easy and not just when it's hard. You want to create safe spaces for yourself and for other people to open up. You don't want to wait till you're absolutely at rock bottom to try to reach out to someone. If you're able to build the muscle of being vulnerable and asking for help, you'll create the type of relationship where you can be there for each other at your worst moments. And being a part of each other's lives at these key moments is what can truly create unbreakable bonds. So when I say I've made 100 friends, most people think that I just have a lot of acquaintances. But I'd say at least 10 of those are already really deep relationships, and many more are on the same track. I don't think I've ever felt more truly seen and understood in my life. For my birthday this year, I hosted a birthday party and I coerced everyone around me to actually say something nice about me. It was a really sweet exercise. I really recommend you do it if you get the chance. But I was amazed at how I had impacted everyone around me and how everyone was so grateful to be a part of my life. It was so great to see everyone celebrating these bonds, and I even have one of my friends tell me they loved me and started crying. Like, it was I started crying too. It was an incredible moment. And it made me realize that I'm never going to feel that kind of persistent, deep loneliness ever again. And that's the friendship pipeline. So the next time you feel stuck in your social life, don't just focus on being more social. Identify which stage of the pipeline needs the most work and start there. The systematic approach completely transformed my social world, and I promise it'll work for you too. Remember, you don't have to master all 5 stages at once. Just fixing your biggest bottleneck can create a cascade of positive changes in your social life. Now, I want to hear from you. Which stages of the friendship pipeline is your current bottleneck? Let me know in the comments. And if you found this framework helpful, hit that like button. And if you want more proven social systems, make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.